Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video. My name is Sarah and today I am going to be doing my December wrap-up. Now I never really know how to order these videos at the end of the year, whether I should do my December wrap-up first and then like my top books of 2022, or like if I know for sure that like none of my December books are coming up in the top 2022 books, should I do that one first? I don't know. I was kind of all over the place, but I did end up deciding to do my December wrap-up books first. Now I did read 6 books this month and 3 of them I'm going to go through really fast because I did do an extensive reading vlog on them. So if you want kind of my more in-depth thoughts, you can get them there. So real quick, I'm also using a new camera. Connor very kindly gave me a new camera for Christmas, so I'm still playing with like settings and setup and everything because it is quite different than my other one. So if things look a little weird or a little different, that is why, but so bear with me while I figure things out. But the first book that I read in December was The Fall of Babel. This is the final book in the Books of Babel series. It's the 4th and final one, and I really think that this was a great end to a very fun, kind of unique fantasy series that I had been reading throughout the year. So obviously I'm not going to tell you what this one is about, but the first book is Senlin Ascends. You know, I've talked about these books quite a few times throughout the year on my channel as I've been reading them, but the first book we are following Thomas Senlin. He is a headmaster at a little village school and he just recently got married, and so him and his wife decide to go on their honeymoon at the Tower of Babel. And the Tower of Babel is this kind of huge construction that is kind of the epitome of like human ingenuity. It is ginormous and there are multiple levels to it. It's so tall that you can't see the top, and each level is called a ringdom. It's kind of its own separate kingdom entity. It's got its own unique political structure, kind of social structure, exports, culture, things like that. And so right when Thomas and his new wife Maria get to the tower, they end up getting separated, and so this whole series is following Thomas as he has to basically make his way up through the tower to reunite with Maria. There's a lot more going on in the series than just that, but that is kind of the backbone of this story. I have described this multiple times as if you took Bilbo Baggins and you dropped him in steampunk Alice in Wonderland. That's what this series would be. This 4th book is no different. I did find this 4th book, it is quite large. I did find it kind of slow in areas as we are trying to get kind of characters to kind of the final endpoints where things are gonna come to a head and wrap up, which was different because the rest of the books I found to be paced really well, but this one did just have some really slow points that I think could have been sped up or kind of cut down. But I think that this was a very solid ending. I still don't quite know how I feel about the actual end part of this, like how it, like at the very end what happens. It's very wacky and kind of out there, yet it aligns well with how fantastical and out there everything else has been in this story, how imaginative and just kind of wacky everything is in this book. It lines up, and so I can't really complain about it. I think I didn't really like how where some characters ended up, and then how it ends up being very open-ended. You answer a lot of questions at the very end, yet the very end also then creates like kind of 2 really big questions, which is kind of a really interesting decision on Bancroft's part. But I don't know, I definitely think that you guys should check this series out. It's one of the most unique settings I've seen in fantasy, and there's just a really great cast of characters that you really kind of delve into who they are and who they're becoming throughout this story. That's a huge focus on it, of them like going through all of these changes. and then forming these really tight-knit relationships amongst each other. And I just think this is a really fun series, but I did end up giving this final one 4 stars. And then after that are the 3 books that I did the very extensive reading vlog on, and that are Colleen Hoover's top 3 books. It Ends With Us, Ugly Love, and Verity. So I'm gonna go through these really fast because, like I said, I went very in depth in my thoughts on them, and overall it's kind of a more negative feeling towards these books, so I don't want to dwell on them for too long. So the first book that I read for this vlog was Verity. This is kind of a one-off of Colleen Hoover's works. This is more of a suspense thriller novel. I found it to be very basic. I think it's good for somebody who is brand new to the thriller genre. However, I have read plenty of thrillers and could see where things were going from very early on in the book. However, the last 2 chapters did catch me off guard and surprise me, and I did really like those. But I found the characters to be very flat, and it made it difficult for me to really get into this story, on top of it being very predictable for me. However, I was like mildly entertained throughout the entirety of this. Like, I was just kind of like watching it go. And then there is like a kind of second point of view that we get in this book, and I did find that one very fascinating to read from. I did give this 3.5 stars in the vlog. In all honesty, the more I think about it and the more I sit on it, it's probably more of a 3 star. I'm at a very low 3 star at that, but there is that one. Next, I read Ugly Love, and I'm just gonna say right now, I hated this book. This is just a pure romance novel. I found there to be a severe lack of substance to the characters. They all felt very flat, very one-dimensional, very just non-characterized at all. The relationship was super unhealthy in here, and because of those 2 things, I really just could not root for the relationship. I was very bored through this book too. We follow kind of 2 different timelines, but throughout both timelines we're solely focused on a relationship, and there's nothing else really going on. And in a romance novel, in any sort of like rom-com romance novels, this is not a rom-com by the way, but any sort of like romance novel, I want there to be kind of some sort of subplot or something else going on, or characters interacting with like their best friends or their family more than what happened in here, in order to get like a good sense of who the characters are. None of that happened. And yeah, I just found the relationship to be really unhealthy. I also found a literary device that Colleen Hoover used, where if one character was mentioned or brought in to a scene, the then structure of the story turned to kind of like verse almost, or it was supposed to be verse, yet it was written just like the prose was, so it fell very flat, and overall I gave this 1 star. And then lastly for that vlog, I read It Ends With Us. This is Colleen Hoover's most famous novel. This is marketed as a romance, but I think it is marketed very incorrectly. This, to me, it was not a romance. I think that it's more of a journey of what this our young female protagonist goes through. I did not vibe with the first half of this at all, yet when the second half came around, it really put a lot of things in the first half into perspective for me, and because of that, like, even though I still didn't enjoy the first half, and I think it really could have been done a lot better, I understood what Hoover was trying to do much better once that second half came around, and I really do think the second half was done very well. A lot of topics were explored in a very nuanced and I feel well-developed way, but overall I did give this 3 stars. Alright, and then after that, the 5th book that I read was The Inugami Curse by Saishi Yokomizo. This is the 2nd translated work in the Kasuke Kandaichi murder mystery series that is being translated. I think there's like, I don't know, 50 or 70 of these that follow this detective. They're slowly being translated into English. In this one, we are basically following this family, the Inugami clan, and the kind of patriarch of the clan died, left his will, but the contents of the will are very strange, and it's a very kind of convoluted series of things that have to happen in order for certain people to get their kind of inheritance, or if they're even going to get their inheritance. And then on top of that, after the will is read, people in the clan start dying off, and so Kasuke Kendaichi is called in to solve this murder mystery. And I have been enjoying, like I said, this is only the second one in these translated works this is the second one that's been translated, and this is the second one that I've read. And while I enjoy just solely the murder mystery element, I find them to be really well crafted. The translations I don't think are done very well. This just reads very stilted, very dry, very kind of irritating to read at times, and I don't know if that's the writing of Yokomizo or if that's the translation part, but the writing is very frustrating to me to read. I also found that this one really rehashed things that were happening in the book over and over and over again. Like, I understand it's a detective novel, and so that you're following this detective that is trying to figure out kind of what's going on and solve the murder mystery, and so they're going to be reviewing details of the case, but the number of times details of the case were reviewed was really annoying. I felt like this could have been cut down by like 50 pages maybe, and we would have been just fine. That being said, I do think the murders are very gruesome, which caught me off guard and I wasn't expecting. This is also kind of a very complicated, like, family drama type of story, so if you like that in your murder mysteries, I would recommend checking it out. And like I said, I feel like the uncovering and kind of the solution of what was going on was very interesting. I think it played with kind of an element that you don't often see in murder mystery novels, but makes sense in like real life, and so I think that it worked very well, but I did end up giving this 3 stars. And then lastly, I read Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a very short, under 140 page horror novella, and I'm convinced now that Stephen Graham Jones can just not write anything bad. I mean, this is only the second book that I've read by him. I do have like 3 others on my stack of books to be read, but I loved this. This was so fun. This, for being a novella, normally I complain that novellas are just too short. This is the perfect length in my opinion. So this is a book that I highly recommend. Go into it not reading the synopsis. Don't read the synopsis on Goodreads. Don't read the synopsis on the back of this book. The only thing that you really need to know going into it is you're following a group of high school kids, and they decide to play a prank in a movie theater using a mannequin, and it all goes horribly wrong. And that is all you need to know, because the synopsis on Goodreads and the one on the back of the book give away something that I found really shocking and a really fun, like, interesting twist to this story. And yeah, I definitely think the synopses give it away. I normally hate like very casual conversation narration styles. This has it in there, and it worked so well for it. I vibed with it right from the get-go, and I don't know what it is about Jones, because My Heart is a Chainsaw has that same sort of vibe, and I loved it there as well. But every other time that I've run into it in other books, I've hated it. So Jones just does that casual conversation vibe really well. Yeah, this was creepy and unsettling, because you really get just focused in on what's happening in the story, and you really get kind of like elbow deep in it. And I can't really talk about much about what happens in this book, or like elements that I really loved, without giving it away. But I really loved the narration style and kind of the decisions that were made with having this specific narrator. And I just think that if you like unsettling books. I think you'd like this. And it's just, like I said, it's really quick. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this and I gave it 4 stars. So these are the 6 books that I read during the month of December. I feel like this is a really quick wrap up, but these 3 were just, I just wanted to get through them because I'd already hashed my thoughts out too much on this channel for these. But if you have read any of these books, if you're looking to read any of them, let me know down in the comments below because I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you stick around and consider subscribing. But as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day and I will see you in the next video. Bye!